Breaking news, rugby fans. We got a new coach of the All Blacks. We've got real-time reaction of Philip looking at the Ireland team this week. It just came out. Oh my God. Lots to get to this week on the Rugby Roundup podcast. I'm Joe Harrington in Austin, Texas at the Flow Sports headquarters. Philip, you're our guy in the UK. I got to say that every week. Ryan, you're here with us. Instant reaction. You just saw it. Ireland. What's the team look like?
Yeah,
Tell us.
very exciting, Joe. 5 changes from the team that I think we can say at 2 weeks removed absolutely hammered England at Twickenham. With a couple of interesting changes. The Ulster-fication of the Irish team continues with more Ulster players coming in, and that's great to see their URC form being rewarded. Across the back line, one change on the wing. James Lowe is out for the rest of the Six Nations, but Jacob Stockdale gets another crack, which is really exciting.
Our
Uh,
guy, Jacob
our
Stockdale.
One of our favorite players. I know we go on about him quite a lot, but I'm really excited to get him another crack because I think everybody in that game in Paris didn't come out looking good in terms of the guys in green. So great to see him get another crack and not sent to Wilderness. Tom O'Toole, another Ulster player, gets a start at Loosehead. Ronan Kelleher starts at hooker. Dan Sheehan's rested this week, which means Ulster hooker Tom Stewart is on the bench, another Ulster player there. In the pack, Tadhg is moving back into the second row. He's partnering James Ryan there. Jack Conan comes in at 6. And another Ulster player, Nick Timoney, at 7 with Caelan Doris at 8. So that's the starting lineup. That means Joe McCarthy is dropped down to the bench. Josh Van der Fleer is down to the bench. And then another Ulster player in Nathan Doak is set to make his debut off the bench, the Ulster scrum half, who's been incredible. And I'll explain in a second why it's so important for Doak to be there. And then Tom Farrell and Kieran Frawley complete the bench. So the reason
Whoa,
Doak
whoa,
is
whoa,
so...
whoa, whoa.
Ooh, yes.
Bundy didn't make it?
Bundy didn't make it. Sam Prendergast didn't make it. So, yeah, big shift. Tom Farrell gets another crack. He was just about the only Munster player who played really well against Zebre in the URC. So it's good to see him get another crack. And it's also, in a way, I think Farrell knows exactly what Bundy brings to the team, that there's almost, I could see him coming back in against Scotland next week, but it's good to get Farrell another run. Also because we don't really have that many 13s who can cover Gary Ringrose if he goes down. And if you remember at Twickenham, his knee was heavily strapped and he kind of hobbled off at about 60 minutes. So Tom Farrell going in there is brilliant. But Nathan Doak is really exciting, gents, because he is an elite goal kicker, which takes so much pressure off the Irish 10s. So, say Jack Crowley's not having a great day, or if at some point Prendergast comes back in, or whoever gets that start, I'm hoping, as you all know, Crowley stays in there. But Doak is a brilliant goal kicker. So late on in the game, if say Crowley's not having the best game, you've got Doak there for that. It's tough
Well,
on Craig Casey, but I think he'll be back for Scotland. But it's great to see another debutant in that team.
Yeah, and you keep Jack Crowley, Jameson Gibson Park, Ty, Tyke Byrne, Jack Conan, who have all been incredible this entire.
Yeah,
And then Caelan Doris, of course, is captain.
Doris back to his best, I think, at this stage. Yeah.
way to go, Ireland, for trying to derail the podcast right after the All Blacks derailed the podcast. Because, fellas, who knew that the Ireland lineups were going to come out right when we press record on the podcast? Because the big breaking news in the world of rugby happened in New Zealand last night or early in the morning, depending on where you are. So we'll talk more about Ireland, but we got to talk about the big news because, Philip, I was pretty stunned that the All Blacks hired Dave Rennie. But then again, thinking about it more, because I've only learned this in the last couple hours. I mean, I guess he is coaching Artie Sevilla right now with the Kobe Steelers, so I guess that makes sense. But are you surprised by this hire? Because he wasn't really the name you were thinking a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I kind of thought Jamie Joseph felt like the front runner, but it was always a two-horse race, really, from my understanding. And I think when Tony Brown wasn't getting released by the Springboks, that probably put a bit of a dent on Jamie Joseph because they kind of have always come as a package. But you can't really argue with Dave Rennie, right? He's coached the Wallabies. He's coached all over the world in terms of he's coached the Glasgow Warriors. He's coaching in Japan. He's coached the Chiefs in New Zealand. So you can't argue with the experience there. And I think he said some very interesting things in this press conference. One was really alluding to getting back some of those senior All Blacks who are playing in Japan. Richie Mwanga is already coming back to New Zealand, but he made a point to mention Brody Retallick, who interestingly is the top try scorer in Japan in the league this season, despite being a second row,
Hey,
and has
Philip,
been in brilliant
real
form.
quick,
So
where can rugby fans watch Japan Rugby League One in the United
I
States?
thought you'd never ask, Joe. They can catch it all live and exclusively on FloRugby. Now that is what you call a transition. Very seamless there, Joe. So yeah, no, I think Dave Rennie, and actually one little fun tidbit, he has a 72% win rate against the Springboks. So watch out, Rassie. So
Wow.
we'll see.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to bring it up. This is on my notes to ask you, Philip. So I'll say it too. So his job with the Wallabies, that's a positive here because they did not do all that great in the time that he was the coach there. I mean, they didn't have a great World Cup in 2023, but that didn't seem to bother the All Blacks.
If you remember, Joe, he was fired just before that World Cup, and they brought
Oh
Eddie
yeah.
Jones in. So actually, to be honest, and I kind of felt this at the time, and I wrote about it. Actually, funny enough, that if he had gone to the 2023 Rugby World Cup, I'm pretty convinced the Wallabies get out of that group stage. I think Eddie Jones just threw everything into turmoil. Actually, when you look back on it, Dave Dave Rennie came quite close against the All Blacks quite a few times. Like we said, he had a good record against the Springboks. And actually, I think Rugby Australia made a real misstep getting rid of him, because I think he would have had a far more seamless run through that 2023 Rugby World Cup and over to Joe Schmidt afterwards, if that was what they wanted to do. So I think New Zealand Rugby probably looked at it and go, we have, by the time he gets in charge, 15 months to the Rugby World Cup. We have to play South Africa 4 times
I've
in that greatest tour. We need to hit the ground running.
I gotta take a sip of coffee because how could I have forgotten the Eddie Jones era of Australia?
Well,
So here we
given
go.
he
Here we
had
go.
like 5 jobs in the space of
All right,
about a
I'm
year,
back
so
on coffee.
you're forgiven, Joe. I mean, given Eddie had, what was he? He was being paid by England, Australia, and Japan all at once. So it's you'll be forgiven on that one.
It's interesting. It seems like it's a long term thing too, right? Like they're not just picking a short term coach for this, and I mean it's the All Blacks way. And whereas I think in some countries, coaching carousel is beginning. And we can talk about that a little bit. But what's really
Yeah,
cool is he has Pacific heritage, and he's the
yeah,
first All Blacks coach with from the Cook Islands from
hmm
with Pacifica heritage, which is incredible, incredible.
yeah.
I mean, it's a big moment.
Yeah, what is that history? What is this moment to you, Philip, as somebody that saw the All Blacks? Like, how important is this to
Mm.
New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean, again, I guess as an Irishman, it's a tricky one, but I do understand how important that Pacifica sort of heritage is to New Zealand as a country, and obviously to the rugby team. And you think back on a haka, how important that is to everything that
Mm,
goes on there. But just paying tribute, and I think Australia and New Zealand have really come a long way, especially over the last sort of 20 years, in understanding those roots, and how important that is. And when you look back on All Blacks rugby, I mean, the names that come out of the Pacific Island region that have represented it wearing that black jersey, it's quite exciting to see that take the next step into the coaching box, right? And you can't say that Dave Rennie doesn't deserve this appointment. And again, I guess it goes back to the whole representation thing, doesn't it? Where, now you've got young Pacific coaches looking, going, well, Dave Rennie's become the All Black coach. Why can't I become the All Black coach? So I think there's a lot of significance on that side of things. And I'm sure there's people, with Pacific heritage that can speak a lot more eloquently on it than I can. But from the outside, that's how I view it. And I think he just gets it. And I think when you look at the relationship he has with Anardi Savia, you've touched on there, and different players he's kind of worked with or kind of been influencing over the years, I think he'll really get the spirit of the All Blacks. Not that Razor didn't. I don't want to point this out that Razor, was a terrible coach and didn't get anything. I think this is the right appointment for right now.
So, we mentioned when Razor got fired that it came after Artie's comments. Now they hire Artie's coach. How involved do you think it was? How much did that matter that he does have this relationship with Artie Sevilla?
It can't hurt, can it? Really? And I
mm,
look. again, Dave Rennie made a good point of mentioning Scott Barrett, who was the current All Blacks captain, as a great leader, and Geordie and players like that in his press conference. But I would be shocked if Artie Savia is not the the All Black captain next season when they take on the Springboks in that greatest tour, greatest rivalry tour. I think everybody kind of views Artie as the captain already, don't they, really? I mean, he's the spiritual leader. He's the best player in the pitch all the time when he's playing for the All Blacks. And I think that makes it, I think it had to have some sort of impact in it. Not that Jamie Joseph wasn't popular with players, but I think Rennie coming in from almost from the outside also helps him because he's not currently coaching a Super Rugby team where he might have an inclination of what players he works with at Super Rugby, which I think reading the sort of Kiwi press, that was a big part of what was Razor's downfall, was that he was trying to put the Crusader way on the All Blacks. And you've got to remember there's 4 other Super Rugby franchises in New Zealand, and that doesn't necessarily gel for everyone. I mean, I think about the Irish job, say, for example, Ronan O'Gara goes in, he's not going to make it the Munster culture, it'll be the Irish culture. I think that has to happen everywhere you go. And I have a thought on England, which I'm sure you'll be all very happy to hear about in a minute. But I think long rambling way of getting to that answer.
Not just
Well,
that, but
here,
Artie Sevilla is probably entering his last World Cup, right? Like, I mean, maybe he'll be 34 during the World Cup, I think, and so I mean, it's very unlikely that he'll be in an elite nature the next time it comes around. So, go out with a bang.
and I mean, look, it's in Australia, but that's as close as he's going to get to probably playing a World Cup in close to New Zealand. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a special one for him.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so here's my question, and I guess this is even a good segue to England because we can talk about this. My question I'm going to toss to you, Ryan. All right, where do we rank the All Blacks coaching job in like the hierarchy of rugby jobs? Is it number one?
It's number one. It's number one. Historically, it's number one. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always I've said this a lot in the podcast. I always try
That
to
doesn't mean that they're taking an
use
English coach, though, or
no,
like
I just because
from the rest
I
of the world.
because I would say England historically is probably the number one job in Europe. I mean, Philip, you can counter me on that. You probably have Ireland or France, but I think historically
No.
England rugby is pretty high up there. And
Mm.
yeah, I agree. I think the All Blacks job is whatever you want, whatever comparison you want to make. It's the
Here,
Ohio State football, it's the Kentucky basketball job of rugby, right?
yeah,
I would agree. I think you both actually. I think there's not one universal answer for this because you think of South Africa, rugby's a religion there, right? You think of New Zealand, it's a religion and it's almost a goldfish bowl, if that makes sense. It's kind of everything is rugby, and you slip
mm,
up and you look at what happens to Razor, it's cutthroat, gone. England, I think, when you look at the grand scheme of things, is probably the biggest job on a number of fronts. One, the England coach tends to be the most well paid. They always have the biggest budget. Everyone wants to beat them, no matter if they're good, bad, or indifferent. Everyone wants to beat England. They're always the biggest rivals, so you could make an argument there. France, rugby. I would argue rugby's overtaken football as the biggest sport. When you look at the television numbers, the Six Nations is beating the football team,
interesting.
which is huge. The top 4 teams going, so that's a big job. But then again, Fabien Galtier seems to be able to do whatever he wants. No one says anything. I would never say the Irish job is the biggest job in world rugby. Because rugby is like our 4th sport in Ireland, so it's kind of hard. Like, it's still a big job, and it's the same as sort of Wales or New Zealand in terms of that goldfish bowl, where you're walking down the street, you're going to probably bump into a Leinster or Munster player if you live in Dublin, Limerick, or Cork, sort of thing. So it's a bit different,
This
but yeah,
this
the
is
pressure's always
incredible
there.
this is incredible podcasting. I gotta follow up on this so we
Yeah.
can cut this out and put it on social media.
Here's my
You're
question.
saying
Go
you're
ahead.
saying that rugby in France is bigger than what we call in America soccer right now?
Yeah, I believe so. From the viewing figureships in terms of the numbers of the Six Nations games and consistently getting bigger, I don't think there's an argument. Ryan's an avid football supporter that top 14 is bigger proportionally than League One when you think about it on that side
I
of
would.
things.
That's probably true, but I would say that I mean, I would disagree with you. I think especially if France wins the World Cup.
No, yeah, no doubt. But I mean, you look at, I'm going based off the numbers from Canal Plus, which is the
Hmm.
main TV provider. That my understanding is the Six Nations have been the biggest numbers and
Wow.
things like that. But I think when you look at it, Ryan, which you could have there is a very realistic chance that you could have France as the football world champions and rugby world champions
Yes.
in
I
one
think
hit.
it's probably more likely than any other country, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well,
Hey,
Ireland, we
Ryan.
have. Come
Ryan,
on,
I got a
That's
Ireland.
question.
yeah, it's not Ireland. It's not, unfortunately.
Ryan, I have a question to you, Ryan. Where can folks in the United States and Canada
Mm,
watch professional club rugby from France in the top
Flow
14?
Rugby. It's
Flow Rugby.
flowrugby.com. Yeah, that's it.
That was big news here last week. Flow Rugby got the Canadian rights for top 14 for the rest of the season. So if you are sitting there in Quebec or Toronto or Vancouver, one of the prettiest cities in North America, I recommend going to Vancouver. You can watch top 14 rugby on Flow Rugby.
And with
Hamilton.
the French commentary.
Oh,
Here's my
Jimmy
question
Dory.
to you, to both of you. What current player would make the best coach for their national team? I have my
Oh.
answer.
Ooh.
Think of captains. I think captains
Well,
are think of scrum halves. Think
well,
of
Oh,
I
Monsieur Dupont,
halves.
is it?
I go right to England and I say Jamie George. He's retiring. He's been the captain a long time. Plus, he's a big guy, and I love big guy coaches, so that'd
Yeah.
be fun.
Oh yeah.
I think he's pretty well respected. So that would be my answer for
I've got
England.
mine, and I don't know that tactically, tactically he would be a good coach, but it's more about the culture that he would create, and I think it's Sia Khaleesi would
Oh
be an
yeah.
incredible to see as a coach, right?
I think the problem for Sia is he's too much of a big time influencer now, Ryan. The Springbok job wouldn't be big enough for him.
So well,
How amazing would
Philip has
that be,
already
though?
said that it's Faf de Klerk as the next
Oh,
head coach.
yeah, no. I think maybe the water polo so I can get a speedos on or something, but I don't think he'll be doing the Springbok one. Yeah, funny enough, I had a couple of thoughts about the when you look at the French team. Funnily enough, there's a lot more. I think a lot of those players end up coming. Maxime Lucu for me
Mm,
is someone who I could really see being a top quality coach when he's all said and done. I think he's in his early 30s at this stage, so maybe the World Cup is his sort of final international. Just with the way France go, they pick younger players. I've interviewed Max a couple of times, broken French, broken English, and he always comes across as a very bright guy. So he would be my choice. I know it's a bit left field, or George Ford with England seems
You know,
really on that
mm.
team.
you know what the dream is? The dream for me is in about 20 years.
Mm.
We have Sam Prendergast has become a great coach. We've had Crawley become a great coach,
Oh,
and we're just arguing about who of them is going to coach Ireland. That's the dream.
Gents, for what it's worth, Ireland, we've been doing this for about 50 years. We've gone, like the every time we have two good tens, there's a battle. Obviously, the biggest one was Ronan O'Gara, Johnny Sexton for quite a while.
Mm.
But Humphreys and Sexton before that. Was it Ward and Campbell back in the day? So I can't wait, Joe. I can see it going. Now, I have to say, as much as I love our podcast, if we're still chatting about Prendergast and Crowley in 20 years, we have done incredibly well, gents, to keep the ball rolling.
Well, all right. Well, that's our hot take on the huge two breaking newses that came out as soon as we press publish on this. We're gonna come back after a short break, and we're gonna talk about something really exciting that's happening on Flow Rugby. Ryan and Philip are involved, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, and I got some exciting stuff to talk about. We've hinted at it a little bit. We are debuting our top 50 prospects this month. Philip has been working on this for, man, months and months. We started talking about this project more than a year ago, finding out who the best young player is, who's got next, as they like to say about 20 years ago in America. And part of our package, our release, is we're going to have a special spin-off podcast, or as Ryan, we like to call it here at Flow Sports, a breakout podcast. How about that? A breakout podcast just focusing on our list. We are going to be releasing those in segments over the course of this month. Fellas, how excited are you? This is going to be it. The best young players in the world.
Let's go.
Yeah, buzzing, Joe. To be honest, I think I know I'm going to get some stick because people will go, "Oh, how did
Mhm.
you miss X or whatever?" It's 50 players. I don't think anybody's going to disagree that these are 50 phenomenal prospects. You can throw them in whatever order you want, and you can pick your flavor. It actually almost became so hard. I remember when you suggested 100, Joe, and I thought, "Oh God, I'll never get that all done." I ended up with I have to come clean, fellas. I had a list of 236 players by the end of it, but I cut it down to the top 50. So I'm hoping this is a very elite 50. There's a pretty good spread that I think probably reflects where the balance of power is in terms of the global game at the moment. And of course, the under 20s in recent years. So, yeah, some exciting names on there. There was obviously some near misses. There's some big names who aren't on there, but who might be on our next prospect list,
Yeah.
when these guys graduate away. So, I think it's also worth noting a name that won't be on there would be one Henry Pollock, because let's be clear, he's already a British and Irish Lion. He's broken out, even though he falls into that criteria of being, under the age cap of 23 and in terms of the caps of being under 10 on that side of things. So, yes, there are a couple of them playing in the Six Nations this year. So that's as much of a teaser I'm giving right now. I'm not giving any names away today.
No names, but I would say here's my teaser. Who has more names on the top 50 list, England or France?
Oh, I have to do my count back. I had it written out.
I know
I
the
think
answer.
it has to be France, right?
I think it's
No, maybe
England.
it's England.
It's England.
Yeah, I was thinking about the back end of the list.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah, no, they're
England.
going to edge it. Oh, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble here. Yeah, I'm sure
Well,
the South
listen,
Africa.
maybe no, how are they doing in the U20s right now?
Yeah, well, South Africa won last year, but England won the year before that. France had won a couple of years before that. But I think the challenge with France is the reason there's probably less on there is because when their players break out, they play for the national team so quickly.
Well, they
That
and they
doesn't,
add them constly.
yeah,
They sprinkle them
exactly.
in constantly.
Well, like
So
Louis Bielbiaré, look at him. I mean, he's what, 22? So it's like,
So this list is really important, I think, for the growth of rugby, definitely in the United States, where we love knowing who the best young players are in the prospects. And these are the players that hypothetically are going to be powering their national teams once the World Cup comes to the United States in 2031. Some of these players are going to be powering their teams next year at the World Cup, but we're getting excited because these young players should be, by the time we get to 2031, like in the primes of their careers, and it'll be really exciting to get to know these players now, right?
yeah, well, exactly, Joe. And a little bit of to add on to that, a few of these players are going to be captaining their countries by that stage. I mean, that's the level of talent we're talking about with this list. So, yeah, really, really exciting. And for me, it was a fun process because it meant I had to really think that bit further than, we watch a lot of Prem and URC and top 14 on FloRugby because we have that. But then, you look at there's players all over the world with Japan League, Super Rugby, and you've really got to cut it down. I went back, watched quite a bit of under 20 footage, and I'm very confident in my list. No doubt there will be magnanimous fans all around the world who will be so happy that it was, their favorite player didn't make the list, but such is life. I'm sure there'll be more joy and disappointment for people when the top 100 player list is given
Mm.
out later this year. So, yeah.
So keep an eye on Flow Rugby social accounts, Flow Rugby YouTube. We're going to be all over it with these lists. It's going to be really exciting. Fellas, I can't wait. We're going to take a little bit of break, and then guess what, fellas? We're going to talk about round 4 of the Six Nations because it's here, it's back. It took a break, but here we go. Last 2 weeks. We'll be right back. Yeah, I'm really excited about the podcast. It just dawned on me in the middle of doing the promo that, oh yeah,
Oh,
we should
yeah.
talk about the 2031 World Cup.
Yeah, no, really, really good point, Joe. I mean, I look at them, for example, Riley Norton from South Africa, who's the junior buff captain at the moment. Like, he's been
Yeah.
touted as Springbok captain for the last 3 years, and he's phenomenal. So there's
Hmm.
some really good names there. A couple of the English players are in the running for it too. It is funny too because on the list there's a couple of names, especially a guy called Junior Kapoku, plays for Racing, just signed for Toulon. but he's in England under 20. But because he's playing in France, they can't pick him for the national team, and he'll be eligible for France next year. So he might well be playing for France at the World Cup, you know? So.
Jeez. All right. Here we We're back, and so is the Six Nations. Round 4 is this weekend. I'm going to kick it off. We're going to talk about one of our favorite teams in the world to talk about. Fellas, is the Old Alliance the most interesting match this week?
I think so. I think so. I had to think about what participation trophy that was for Scotland. So yeah, no, that's the big one. That's the big one. And as you can see, gents, as I've bragged a couple of times, I managed to nab one of the fantastic jerseys France will be wearing this week. I saw Dupont in it, and I thought, God, I look very like Dupont if I'd wear that. So here we are with this 120-year anniversary jersey. It's definitely the biggest game of the week because if France slip up here, the Six Nations is on the line going into the final round. France get the bonus point win, done, dusted. They've won the Six Nations.
That's right.
And they're probably going to take the Grand Slam because I don't see England upsetting them. So, yeah, I can't wait for this. And the weather's good this week too, which makes it even better.
Big picture-wise, Philip, France can win the Six Nations this week, but, they're so far ahead, they can also win it next week. Is this a really important match for Scotland just because they get this chance at home to pull off this big upset? It's been a weird Six Nations for them. They lost to Italy, but then they've come back and they've won some pretty big matches.
Yeah, well, typical Scotland go normally bad, good, bad, good. So by that logic, they should be good this week because they were pretty bad against Wales and Cardiff. Yeah, it's huge for Gregor Townsend. And you look at Finn Russell and Sione Tuipulotu and guys like that. They want to go to Dublin in the final round with something on the line because if they go to Dublin with nothing on the line, yeah, a win over Ireland would be huge for them with the World Cup. But this team, they're chasing silverware. And it's the first time, really, I can imagine that I can actually remember Scotland being genuine contenders. And as I said last week, I feel like they probably are the one team with the antidote to France, depending on how France approach this game. Because I think France, I think it's fair to say, have more ways to win this game. But if this game goes fast and loose in an open way, they're not going to be outclassing Scotland as much as they think they will be. So I have a few ideas for how I think Scotland can win. And I'm pretty sure Finn Russell has a few better ideas on how they can win. So
here's the thing. I have been so excited to ask Ryan this question since I put together the podcast rundown. Ryan, this is your match. Thomas Ramos versus Finn Russell. How freaking excited are you for this as somebody that is a Thomas Ramos fan?
Yeah, two big personalities for sure, in different ways. It'll be interesting. I don't think that the lineups are out for this, but I think Jalabert will be back, so Ramos won't have to fill in there. But yeah, it's going to be unbelievable. The phases and build up that we're going to see from both sides is going to be incredible, right? So yeah, we'll see. I haven't made my pick for this one, but so I'll have to do it during this while we talk about this.
So, Philip, in the grand scheme of great kickers, like Thomas Ramos and Finn Russell, we see them every year in the Six Nations, so it's not like we've never gotten this matchup. But where do they lie as all time greats, as guys that you can trust in kicking?
Yeah, I think when it comes to kicking off the tee, Joe, so in terms of obviously kicking for points, Ramos is elite. I would put him there with sort of Lee Halfpenny at his pomp, who pretty much never missed for Wales. I don't think Finn's there because I think Finn, as we saw at Twickenham last year, can have those days where just things go haywire.
Yes.
But I think when it comes to tactical kicking and his variation, he's elite, of course. But I think his goal kicking, it's been good, but he does have those moments which have cost Scotland quite big time. I would put Ramos in the echelons of all-time greats alongside Halfpenny, O'Gara, probably Sexton, and Wilkinson, players like that. Farrell too. So.
You got to put Andre Pollard in there.
But he's not a Six Nations player. As much as the South Africans want to be part of our game, they're not allowed to on this one. But Pollard for the big time games, of course. But I was going just off Six Nations there, Joe, because if you add it in, then you've got Dan Carter in New Zealand, Andre Pollard, Percy Montgomery, for those of a certain vintage in South Africa. So, Yeah, I think Ramos is just one of the game's very, very best. And Ryan, I would call you a Ramos savant. You have been on this trail from day one. So I think if Finn Russell called himself the Messi of rugby, then we've obviously got Ronaldo playing for France. So
Oh,
yeah,
and he's
looking forward to
Portuguese
that.
too. So
And he's
yeah,
Portuguese.
that's a
There you
nice
go.
connection.
Well, okay. Well, the last bit on this. Here's what I want. Who's the 5 best kickers in rugby right now? And or
Okay,
these 2 guys on that list.
for in terms of in terms of just goal
Just
kicking.
right now, goal kicking, drop kick goals, whatever it is, when you're kicking the ball to score points, like where are these? Who's the 5 best?
I would say you've got Ramos. If I was trying to go for a World Cup final, definitely Andre Pollard, I think, is right up there. George Ford, I think George Ford, he had a bad day against Ireland, but nobody in the England team had a good day against Ireland. So he's right there for me. Jeepers, this is a
Damien
tough.
McKenzie?
No, I don't.
Oh,
Mackenzie's good. Yeah, Mackenzie lands some big. Well, he landed that big time one against Scotland, didn't he? So
Mm.
he could be there or thereabouts. Oh gosh, this is a tough one. Maxime
Sam
Lupien is
Prendergast.
very good. No, not Brent. Well, listen, we joke about that, but when it comes to the big spiral kicks, nobody's better than Prendergast, I would say at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's get this list. Let's go for it. You got your Ramos. Let's go Pollard. We'll put Mackenzie in there. I think you swayed me on that one, Joe.
Santi
Santi
made some.
Carreras.
Yeah, he made some big kicks for Argentina
Yeah.
this summer.
Santi Carreras and George Ford. Let's go with that 5.
And I think he got hurt, but the Australia kicker made some big kicks this summer too.
Yeah. The Wallabies are interesting because they've got 5 very good young fly halves who I'm looking forward to seeing who comes out of that bundle. So, yeah, it's an interesting one because I know, Ryan, we mentioned Sam Prendergast there, but there's something going on in terms of the confidence with Crowley and Prendergast because both of them have been historically good goal kickers prior to this year. So, yeah, definitely not in the top 5, though.
All right, fellas, it's time to pick this game. Remember, because we just had an offshoot on kickers. It's France Scotland. Does France clinch the Six Nations this week? Fellas, who you picking?
Ryan, go first.
France. It's got to be France. It's got to be France. I think that they're. I think it's been kind of inevitable at this point for a few weeks that France is going to win. That they seem. God, they're just so incredible to watch, and we don't talk about them really enough on here because it's become assured that they're
Yeah,
going to do something incredible. Like, and it's sometimes it's more fun to talk about the teams that are in the weeds.
Well, also, like, look, we talked about them a lot at the start because they played Ireland and then they played Italy and Wales back to back, right? So, like, now they've got Scotland and England to close it down. So, um, I wouldn't
yeah.
say we weren't avoiding them. It's just, there were some bigger matches. Now they're in their big matches.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, as an Irish fan, I would love for Ireland to have had a crack off them in the final round rather than the first round, but it is what it is. Because I think if you'd flipped it coming into this, we would have thought England would be the biggest challenge for them at the end. But
Mm.
actually, I think Scotland are the biggest challenge for them. I'm going to go with. I did back Scotland over England, and I backed Ireland over England, but I was because of what England did. I'm going to go France because I think they have more ways to win. But what I can say is there's certainly a route for Scotland here, and I think Scotland win this game if France go off script and don't stick to what they're very good at. If France just go route one physical ball game against them, Scotland don't have enough power to live with France in that game. If France get a bit carried away and start playing fast and loose, sure they could win, but Scotland will strike. And, if that game is really tight going into it, the pressure's all on France because, again, they're the heavy favourites coming into this. The Grand Slam is on the line, the Six Nations title is on the line. So, yeah, I think France win it, but yeah, if France win, they're going to score 4 tries, aren't they?
We
So they'll clinch the Six Nations this week.
The Harringtons are going to bust out the Sunshine on Leaf vinyl. It's one of my son's favorite albums. We're gonna bust it out. We're gonna walk 500 miles, and Scotland's gonna beat France this week. It's Murrayfield. It's bagpipes. You heard it here. Scotland over France, says Joe Harrington.
There we go,
Wow.
Joe. There we go, Joe. And if this doesn't happen, Joe, we'll just delete this episode. So don't worry, no one
Mm.
will know. It's yeah, it's
It's all right. You know what? I
fine.
mean, you just go fire Gregor Townsend. I'm going to give him a lifetime contract when he beats
It would be
France.
interesting to go back and see who has the best, who ranks the best on our picks. I think it's probably Philip.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I think I've
Philip.
got everyone right so far. And not that I'm keeping count, but yeah,
Well,
it's
Philip. Here's the thing. Here's a good segue. Philip knew England was going to collapse, and he
He
picked them
did.
to lose. And guess what's the next game we're going to talk about here? England's
oh
going to Rome, and it doesn't look good for England right now. Fellas, these two teams are reeling. They looked really good at the start of the Six Nations. England slaughtered Wales. Italy upset the team we just talked about, Scotland. Then England just got kicked out of the building in week 2, and now and Italy, did not look great after they nearly beat Ireland. They got destroyed by France. Um, However, this seems like a really important match for both teams. Someone's got to win. Philip, my question to you is: when was the last time a England Italy match kind of felt this big?
yeah, I can't remember one, Joe. If I'm being honest, it's so on the line for both sides coming into this one. For Italy, the big thing is right. You saw it in Dublin. I never thought they were going to win because I didn't think they really believed when it really, really mattered. I don't think they believed they could beat Ireland. And I wonder if that's the same thing for them with England because they've never beaten England. England have made 9 changes. That is panic stations. No matter how
Hmm.
Steve Borthwick tries to pitch it or whatever, that is, oh crap, everything has gone completely out the window. This is not where we thought we'd be. I mean, for Steve Borthwick, I mean, it was the most naive thing to say, oh, we're going to be playing a Grand Slam game in Paris in the final round, coming into that one. And I think the selection reflects what he's trying to do, right? So he's brought Elliot Daly back at fullback. Daly is a veteran. He's a brilliant kicker and, really, really solid. You've got Roebuck and Murley both on the wings. So both wings have been changed again. Tommy Freeman's gone into the centre. Seb Atkinson is at inside centre. And then you've got Finn Smith at 10, 10 and Ben Spencer at 9. So I think you're going to see quite a bit of kicking. George Ford is out of it altogether. The most interesting thing in this selection for me, though, gents, is that he's gone a little bit more heavyweight in the back row. Not fully, but putting Guy Pepper back at 6 brings that little bit more grunt to the back row. And I think he knows he needs that against this Italian team. I think England still win this. I just think they have enough to do it, but I don't feel confident. I actually think this is the toughest round of Six Nations fixtures to pick because I was pretty torn on that France Scotland one, and I think Italy can do this. It's just I don't know if they believe that they can do it, if that makes sense, as silly as it sounds.
Ryan, what's the one matchup you're most excited for, player wise, in this game?
We don't know who's on the Italian team though, so I'm not
Yeah,
sure. I am, anytime Luke Cowan-Dickey's on the with this haircut, Finn Smith, I think is the most exciting thing for England. It'll be
yeah,
interesting to see how he does um, after being gone for. What's really interesting about England, and it's not necessarily this game, it's that they play France next, and then they play South Africa after that. Those are their next 2 matches
yeah.
after this. So you can't you if you're going to create form, this is the time to do it because France is going to be near impossible. South Africa is South Africa. So I don't. Are we looking at a new coach before South African game? Like, did they do that? I don't know, but
Oh, do we want to talk about that right now? I think we have to.
I mean, how
what
can you go
it
from
is
thinking your
interesting that George Ford's not on the not
mm,
Marcus Smith is there on the bench. You have Sam Underhill on the bench. You have Henry Pollock on the bench. So none of those are starting.
That is going to
Marcus
be an angry crowd at Mojo Coffee, where George Ford owns his coffee shop.
yeah, it was kind of I don't know, Jens. I think it was pretty nonsensical that Finn Smith wasn't first choice. I think we kind of touched on it from round one. He went on the British and Irish Lions tour and lost his place when George Ford went on that tour to Argentina. He was the first choice prior to that. And I think you've got to, it's a weird one because Borthwick has this, you know how I kind of hinted at it back there about understanding an identity and bringing a club identity. You look at the teams that, you know, Borthwick played for in terms of when he was in Bath and Saracens, very forward orientated kick teams, went to Leicester, coached Leicester, forward orientated kick team. And he wanted George Ford for that. But the reality of it is Finn Smith can do that and he can attack the line and he's a more solid defender and he brings a bit more to the attack. What
And he's
didn't really make
9 years younger.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly right. And I think the other point of it is, gents, what doesn't make sense to me this week is if you're putting Finn Smith in there, why are you not putting all his Northampton Saints teammates around him? I know Alex Mitchell's injured, but why take out Fraser Dingwall and put Seb Atkinson in, someone he hasn't played with? Why have you put Freeman at 13 in a position where he hasn't looked good? And why don't you just keep him on the wing? It was an interesting one. And I personally would have started George Furbank at fullback for that side of things. So I think Borthwick is under a ton of pressure, and I think he's making decisions that prove he's under pressure. You can't win one game in the Six Nations with this squad. You can't. It's a joke. It's an absolute
Philip,
joke.
we talked about the All Blacks job earlier in this podcast. The moment that we knew it was over for Razor was when Artie was talking about leaving New Zealand, and a couple days later, next thing you know, Scott Robertson's out. My question to you is, if England continues to back Borthwick, like what's going to happen, like player wise? Is somebody going to have to come out and do and make some comments like Artie did for them to like realize they need to make the change? Or do you think Borthwick, being a kind of a player's coach, maybe doesn't have that happen to him?
No, Borthwick, I don't think Borthwick's particularly popular at all within the player squad. I mean, he's not the guy. It sounds so bad. The guy has no personality. And actually, the reality of it is that I can't imagine the players like him very much. I mean, there's a famous thing where Jordan Murphy, who, a Leicester Tigers and Ireland legend, was coaching the Tigers after he retired. And, they brought in Borthwick, and Borthwick said, "I'm not here to be your friend." And basically that was the opening statement. He said, I don't think that there's a cozy thing, and I don't think the players would necessarily go to bat for Steve, if I'm being honest. I was at that press conference when they got hammered by Ireland, obviously, and there was just nothing there. Whereas I've seen, for example, Andy Farrell said Ireland lacked intent in Paris, but he never went out and hung out players to dry. Like, I think
he's like Bill Belichick without the wins.
Yeah, exactly. He's like Fabien Galtier without the wins. It's like, and the question is who comes in then, but I think Phil Dowson at Northampton's the best option. Bring Sam Vesti. I mean, the Saints play such a phenomenal brand of rugby that I think he'd be the front runner for it. And it's not just that. Phil Dowson gets it. He understands. You talk about player coach. His Saints players love him. Last year's Champions Cup was like that. Yeah.
Is this a landing spot for Franco?
No, I don't think so. He's going to be Scotland coach. Yeah. I think
he's holding out for Scotland.
To be honest, Joe, I think that discussion's already happened. If I'm being brutally honest, I would imagine it's gone. Franco, Gregor's going to be here till the end of the World Cup. You get it after that. That's what I think's already happened. Because he could have taken the Wales job, I would have thought.
Every time you talk about Borthwick predicting a Grand Slam final in France that last week, you know what it makes me think of, Ryan? It makes me think of Pat Riley putting the trademark on three-peat in the Lakers in the 80s. And then, of course, they didn't three-peat. But because Pat Riley owes the trademark, every time you put three-peat on a shirt, Pat Riley gets money. So
funny.
Makes me think of that.
Interesting.
One of my friend has a T-shirt said, "It came home, England win whatever the World Cup year was, 2018 or whatever they were good in," and he still has that T-shirt. I mean, it happens.
There was a player for the Dallas Mavericks named Jason Terry when they went up against the Heat, and he got the tattoo of the trophy before, and they ended up going on to beat the Heat before their dynasty. So it actually worked out, and so it's on his arm too. It's not like
oh no, that's so good.
It worked out, but that doesn't always work out with people. Sometimes they have to exit.
I I really have no desire to fantasy book the next coach of England right now because I do think Steve Borthwick is probably going to be the coach
Yeah, I'd say so.
through the end of the World Cup. But yeah, you're right. I mean, as Ryan pointed out, they play France next week, and then they play the All Blacks, or not the All Blacks, but the Springboks. If they lose those matches in embarrassing fashion, he will get fired, I
Well, I
think.
mean, and then they play Fiji. I mean, it's not like it
Right.
lets up because Fiji could
Yeah.
Fiji could absolutely upset this team. Here's my
Fiji beat them
question.
before the last World Cup.
Here's my question to Philip. The Italians have scored 24 points the last two times they've played this England team. If they score 24 points this weekend, do they win the game?
Oh, that's a really good way of asking that question. Uh, no, I think England. Oh God,
I think
Well,
they
let's
that's a
do.
really good way of
I
asking that
think they
question. What did
do.
England? Yeah, I think so. What did England get? 21 against Ireland.
England
Yeah,
only scored
yeah.
27 points in 2024. They scored 47 last year. They had a good game.
Mm.
And when it was about the right time, but we can look at who scored for that too. But
well,
oh yeah, so Marcus
fellas,
looks like Marcus Smith was playing. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
let's cross this Rubicon and let's
No,
pick
Finn
this game
Smith.
that's
Finn
happening
Smith
in
scored a
Rome.
bunch of points. Finn Smith
Yeah.
scored a ton of points against them last year. The
Yeah.
Italians.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there we have it. Sorry, go ahead,
Oh.
Joe.
That's all right. We're crossing the Rubicon here. We're heading to Rome. We're going to pick this game.
Hmm.
Ryan, who do you have in this game?
It would be difficult not to pick England, I think, just because of this history. And that does, I think it does weigh
Oh,
on.
you want to pick Italy so bad, I can feel it.
I want Italy to win. I think that would be, it would be amazing for their union, for the country. I think that would be in Rome. It would be incredible. But I do think I think England find a way to win. It's probably close. It was 3 points 2 years ago, so that tells you that Italy has been on them for a while.
Yeah, ironically, now that Ryan's picked England, he had swayed me before that to go to Italy, and now he's gone back to England. Oh, I think it's going to be, gents. I think this is going to be 3 points either way, and yeah, why not? Come on, let's do it. Italy are going to beat England this week. Italy are going to beat England this week.
Let's go.
Ryan, you lured me in, Ryan, and now you went on the other direction. But here we are.
Listen,
Yeah,
I'm not
Look,
trying to pick the empire here every week. Like it just.
look,
you are a big royalist. I have heard that. Yeah.
here we go. Who is the best player in this game? What country does he play for? He plays for Italy. It's
Yes.
Thomas Monticello. He is the best player on the field in here. England's got a lot of great players. No one's as good as that guy. Guess what? We're going to be talking about Steve Borthwick's job getting axed because Italy is going to beat him just like they beat Scotland in Rome. I'm ready for it.
I'd argue
Wow.
Italy have the two best players, Joe. They have Ange Capuozzo too, and then you've got Ignazio Brex is back this week. I've seen he's back in camp, so it's a formidable Italian team. Yeah, really,
We
really.
talked about at the start of the Six Nations this possibly being like a golden era of Italy, and this is what we're
Mm,
talking about. They've got the talent to beat anyone,
mm. Yeah, and
probably
then if
except
they
for the
go and beat
Springboks.
Wales, if they beat Wales in that final round, which isn't actually a cert, I think after what we saw last week against Scotland, a 3-win Six Nations is a huge step forward for them.
It
Huge.
is interesting. If you look at the team from last year, it's very similar to the team
Mm,
that Borthwick has picked this week, and that makes me think that that's exactly what he's doing, with the
yeah.
exception of what you said. No Alex Mitchell, so
Mm.
he was the 9
And he's
last year.
big. He's
Yeah,
big as Alec Mitchell, yeah.
All right. The last match is actually that we're going to talk about is actually the first match of the weekend. So it's Ireland versus Wales. Wales is crossing the water, going over the island. So here's my question. I'm going to kick it off to you, Philip. What's your favorite memory of the country of Wales? What's your favorite thing you think of when you think of Wales?
Well, funny enough, it's not a rugby memory, but one of my very good mates, Josh, he's Welsh. He had his wedding in the Valleys, and you gents will love this. My wife, I would say this was the closest she probably came to ever divorcing me. We got a taxi, and we got into said taxi, and the taxi driver, a lovely man, had just arrived from Nigeria, but had never driven in the UK. couldn't get his car out of first gear, went the wrong
Mm.
way down the motorway, did a U-turn on a 3-lane motorway, back up, dropped us 2 miles away from the wedding in the valleys. My wife had to walk in high heels up and down mountains. We were an hour and a half late for the wedding. So that's my favourite Welsh memory currently. But and then last year's Champions Cup with our good friend Taylor T-Dog, of course.
Mm.
That was a brilliant week. And yeah, that was great fun too. So I do love Wales, and I love the Welsh people. They're my good friends
I've
in this occasion.
I have never been to Wales, so I do not know this, but you have, so I'm going to ask you this question. What's your favorite what is your favorite Welsh cuisine? Is there something that they do in Wales that they don't do anywhere
Oh,
else?
cheapers. Oh, you've got me on the spot here. Oh, I don't know, Joe. I have no idea. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna let you down there.
Don't
I'm
apologize
not
to
that.
me, apologize to the country of Wales.
Well, let us know in the comments, folks. What are we missing here? What's the peak cuisine in Wales?
Ryan, what's your favorite Welsh fact? Is it that Tom Jones, the musician, is Welsh? What is it?
No, but that's always oh, of course he is. Of course he's Welsh. I would say I have to go history because and we are the same. But the Welsh language is obviously incredible. It's been spoken in some form for like 3,000 years. It's one of the oldest languages that's continuously spoken in the world. So I find that incredible.
One of my favorite episodes of the Netflix show The Crown is when they have to teach the Prince Charles, whatever his name is, how to speak Welsh. Good episode, good show. Never finished
Yeah.
it though. Um, all right, jokes aside, fellas, is there anything in this match that worries you from an Ireland perspective?
Yeah, I think Wales have a better scrum than Ireland coming into this one. I think that's a real area for them to get into the game. I think this is going to be a lot tighter than people think it was. Last year was very close in Cardiff. It actually relied on Bundy Aki coming on to save the day. If you guys remember that, I think I think Wales can get on top at scrum time here. And in the URC, I know it doesn't matter because the main players were away, but the Welsh teams did get 2 wins against the Irish teams in the past round, in round 12. You know, Ulster lost away to the Ospreys and Leinster lost away to Cardiff. So, do I think Wales are going to beat Ireland? No, I don't. But I don't think it's going to be as clean cut as everyone thinks it's going to be. I personally, from an Irish standpoint, I'm very happy we had a rest week last week because I think the high of beating England so convincingly at Twickenham, you were always going to be ready for a downfall. Whereas that gap week means the guys can steady things out and come back. I think the way I see this game playing out is I see it being very, very tight for 55, 60 minutes. I think Wales will be nip and tuck there, but I think the Irish bench has a lot more power to bring on, and I think that's where the difference will lie in this game. But I do think Wales have the better scrum here, and I think that's where they can get into this game. If I was Wales, personally, I would build scoreboard pressure. If you get opportunities to take 3 points,
Mm.
kick the goal.
That's
Don't go to the corner.
That's exactly right. I think if they can put Ireland into a kicking duel, they have a real chance.
For sure.
Unfortunately for Ireland, I think they have to keep their shape, right? Because England, we saw them just like they were letting line breaks happen, and I think that they have to slow down that ruck speed with Jameson Gibson Park. He destroyed England last week with the ruck.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ryan. And I think that's reflected in the Irish back row this week. In second row, Ireland haven't loaded up with their big, heavy players. What they've done is gone for pace. You've got Ty Byrne back in the second row, and he's essentially like a fourth back row. You've got Jack Conan, who's brilliant at the ruck, Caelan Doris, and Nick Timoney. That's where they make their money. So I think that's a real indication. And again, when we talk on the power game, I just think that Ireland are going to be rolling off Tom Stewart, Michael Milne, Thomas Clarkson, Joe McCarthy, and crucially Josh van der Fleer in terms of their forwards replacements. That's going to be really tough for Wales to handle. So I think that's where this game goes. I also do think Ireland will get a bonus point win. I just
Mm.
think it's going to take quite a while. I don't think it's going to be as emphatic. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love for Ireland to blow Wales away because Wales are tough. And if Wales get a sniff, they will be right in this. And I mean, really, that game against Scotland, they should have won it. They should have won it. And I think they'll probably have 90% of the feeling that they won it, if that makes sense, like a moral victory, which sounds, ridiculous for Welsh rugby, given it's one of the best unions in the world. But that was a real step forward for this team. It's just, can they double down and do well? The Friday night at SP de Viva should be great fun too. A few pints being knocked around. So.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna watch this, and I'm gonna eat some cal. That's Welsh stew. I'm gonna
Okay.
have some laver bread. It looks like seaweed. I'm gonna have some barrabrieth. That's some fruit tea loaf. And I'm gonna eat some traditional Wales, and I'm probably gonna watch Ireland beat them in rugby, and that's my pick. And I think we're all probably connected that Ireland's gonna win this one.
Yeah,
I'm picking
yeah, I
Wales.
think so. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
there
there
you
we
go, Ryan.
go.
Come on, Ryan. Come on,
I'm picking
Ryan.
Wales. I'm
Yeah,
picking
there we
Wales.
There we go. Right.
I'm not reluctantly picking Wales. I am emphatically picking Wales
go. There we go.
with the knowledge that I will be disappointed. But I'm
I
picking Wales regardless.
I think it's because Ryan's just a really big fan of the vegetable leeks, which are really popular in the
No, no,
West.
no. Listen. Ellis is a strong Welsh,
Certainly
very
is.
strong Welsh name.
Yes.
It's right next to Davies. It's like the Smith of the
Williams.
United States of
Yeah, yeah.
England. Ellis is a old Welsh name.
I mean,
Love it.
I'm pretty sure that Ryan. I'm pretty sure there's probably an Ellis in the Welsh team this week. Actually, I've got to have a
There's
look.
probably an Ellis with the first
There's
name
an
and an
Ellis
Ellis with the
Me.
last
There's
name.
there's Ellis Me, which is his first name, the winger. So there is that
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's about 5 Davies on the Wales soccer team, so it's like it's a Davies Ellis thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there we
Fair.
have it. Those are our picks for Six Nations Round 4. We are going to take a little bit of break, and then we're going to come back and play a little buy, sell, and close this podcast out. We're back. We're going to the rugby stock market. We're going to buy and sell some hot takes here. Philip, right at the start here. Bundyaki did not make the team. He's not going to play.
Mm.
I think he's going to make the Scottish team because that will be probably his last game. My question to you, is that his last game for Ireland if he plays in the Scottish game?
I don't think so, Joe. I think Andy Farrell has him lined up to go to the World Cup. The only thing I would say, and there's fairly strong reporting from sources I trust, namely Neil Fissler at Rugby Pass, who does great work, is probably the preeminent sort of insider in rugby, is that Bundyaki has been linked with Premiership teams, as is James Lowe. Now, this happens every time Irish players go up for negotiation in their contracts, so I don't know how much of that is there. But yeah, if he doesn't make the Scotland team, it could be the end of Bundyaki. You know, um, it's hard to see exactly where he slots in at this stage because Stuart McCluskey is Ireland's number 12, and that's not going to change. He's right up there as one of the players of the tournament for this year. So yeah, I'm going to sell on it tentatively. I think we will see Bundy in green again at some point, but it's not as certain as it was before.
Ryan, just right off here, buy or sell. How long? I'll phrase it like this since it's buy sell. Buy sell. The standing ovation for when Bundy Aki enters the match will be way too long.
No, it won't be too long. No, not at all. So what would that be? I feel like we have a double negative here, but
Yeah, probably a lot of double negatives because nobody
no,
nobody wants to talk about Bundy Aki leaving because he's such a great player and he's one of my favorite
yeah,
rugby players of all time. I don't want to talk about him retiring, but man, age comes for us all.
they'll certainly give him his moment, as they should. I think amongst, I mean, where like what does he mean to the Irish team over the past 10 years, Philip? You know,
Yeah, massive. And he's a huge character in that team now. When you think about who's departed in terms of recently with, Conor Murray, Peter O'Mahony, Johnny Sexton, Cian Healy, Bundy's probably the next sort of cab off the rank in terms of that senior leadership, isn't he, really? As, Caelan Doris is obviously the captain, but, Doris is part of that next wave of talent,
Mhm.
whereas Bundy's part of the senior group. So, yeah, he's been massive for Irish rugby. It's like Joe said, time comes for us all, and I don't want to be writing Bundy off completely, but I I don't think he's quite at the level. It's very hard to get back there. He was arguably the best player in the world in
Yeah.
2023. Like we said, if Ireland made a World Cup semi-final, he'd have been World
Mhm.
Player of the Year. I'm pretty convinced. So,
Those big guys, though, they go quickly, right? The knees
mm,
usually is what does
yeah,
it. So,
Yeah, he's
but
super explosive. He's not, yeah.
Last question on this topic, Philip. Who are you buying as the biggest loss for their international team of the retiring players?
Of those who've recently retired, Joe, or who's going to be retiring?
Who are playing their last Six Nations? Because we talked about it at the start
Mm.
because of the Bundy possibility. Who's like, we have Jamie George retiring for England.
But he'll be here
Who?
next year, Joe. So Jamie will be here because of next year for the World Cup year,
Mhm.
provided he gets selected. So it's a tricky one, really, because I can't think of any guaranteed retirees just yet. There's nobody really locked and loaded. When he goes, Jamie George will be a massive loss for England, just because of that leadership experience. But I think really it'll be like the next year we'll have this big discussion in 2027 post, players retiring
Right.
at the World Cup. I think
Absolutely.
that's when it'll line up. But
And
I think
very rarely do you get to choose your time either,
for sure
So,
but I can tell you the biggest name for next year will be Jamison Gibson Park. That will be the
oh,
biggest name because he's just so far ahead. You
oh,
know, only Anton Dupont is a better scrum half in the world than Jameson Gibson Park.
that will be a
That's
loss.
yeah. So that's a big drop. But yeah, I just to phrase it for in terms of I think from what I've seen through the opening three rounds in terms of recent retirees, Peter O'Mahony for Ireland is huge. He brings that sort of dog to this team, and I think in
Mm.
Paris you wouldn't have had the blowout you would have had if you had Peter O'Mahony there.
I think
Because
he's actually younger than me, and he had that gray salt and pepper hair in his last
We
game.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've talked about that in
yeah.
the Autumn Nations, and I think we even talked about that in France, as they
Mm.
miss that bulldog type guy.
For sure, for sure. And I think James Ryan is starting to fill that void, Joe McCarthy, to a certain extent. That's where I know, a few weeks ago, we were talking about Kevin Doris, and I felt Doris is best, like he's a really physically abrasive player, but I think he's at his best when he's focusing on his game. Whereas Pete O'Mahony could kind of thread that line of just being an absolute mongrel and still be elite, and it almost brought the best out of him. I mean, I think his name's Andrew Ford, who makes really good highlights videos, and he did like one of Peter O'Mahony's biggest shithousery moments. It's elite. It's so good.
All right, here we go. Buy or sell. This is to Ryan. So for folks that don't realize this, Ryan does way more than just rugby for us at Flow Sports. He did track last week. He's done baseball, softball. You've touched every sport. You've even done some cheerleading stuff for us. So
Very few.
here's my
Yep.
question. Here's my question, Ryan. You're covering the Big Ten Wrestling Championships this week. You're covering the NCAA wrestling tournament in a couple weeks. Buy or sell that someone at these meets could be the next Corey Daniel, the USA Eagle, who's a former UNC wrestler.
I'm going to say
And
sell,
who do
but
you think?
I'm going to say
Oh,
sell, but I'll give you some fun names. I think you would think a big guy, but I'm going to say Lucas Bird. He has the volleyball girlfriend that plays for the Illinois volleyball team. He, I think he's going on like his sixth or seventh year because of COVID. Speed. He has speed on the outside. He's a wing. He's a winger for the Americans. The next winger. He's
Corey Daniels
133
a freak,
pounds. He's 133
by the way.
pounds. So,
Oh,
yeah, he'd get rocked. But
oh yeah.
Gable Stevenson would be he doesn't play any. He doesn't. He's not in college anymore. But he almost made it in the NFL, and I think that he could
yeah.
probably handle a scrum or two.
Yeah, I reckon he'd be a good hooker.
Yeah.
Whack him in the
Yeah.
middle of that scrum. Yeah.
We actually found some highlights. Corey Daniel wrestled Gable Stevenson in
No
2018 when
way.
they were in college.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty incredible. Stay tuned. We're going to have a little bit more content about that coming up because there is a marriage between rugby and wrestling because of Corey Daniel, who is one of Scott Lawrence's
Key
stud
players.
players. Like he loves that guy.
Yeah. He made like 27 tackles the last game I covered in the US. It's ridiculous.
All right, Ryan. I know you don't want to hit the club with Philip and I in the next, so we appreciate you coming on and talking a little international rugby for us.
Yes, sir. Thanks, all.
Thanks,
All
Ryan.
right.
Great to see you.
We're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little URC. We're back, and so is the URC. They were back for 1 week, and then they're going to be off for, another 3 weeks now. Weird schedule in rugby, but we love it. We love the weird here. Speaking of weird, I know this isn't the first point that I wasn't going to make in this, but I got to tell you, Philip, you've been watching South Africa rugby your whole life. Where does Fidelity Secure Drive Lions rank as far as great South Africa rugby club names?
I think it's the worst rugby club name I have ever heard, Joe. I mean, good on the Fidelity Secure or whatever they're called for getting their name on there, but it certainly does not roll off the tongue. But listen, all money coming into the game is good, and I'm glad that the Lions have got a big sponsor, so that's great. But maybe we'll come up with a nice sort of acronym or nickname for it down the line. But I'll tell you what, on the pitch, the Lions are performing pretty well.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
look, it rolls off the tongue a little bit easier than what was it? Cell Sea Sharks.
Chelsea Sharks, yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
that
Yeah, Hollywood Bet Sharks, I guess, didn't sound great either. We got used to that, so
it was
yeah,
just hard.
yeah,
It was just Cell Sea Sharks was just hard to say. Um,
yeah, yeah. It certainly was. And whereas Emirates Lions was nice and easy, DHL Stormers, there we are. Yeah,
so let's talk about the Lions. They had a pretty big match. They had a pretty big
yeah,
win. They've had a. They're going to make the playoffs, I think, which means they're going to make the Champions Cup. Are all
yeah.
four South Africa teams going to make Champions Cup next year?
I don't think so, Joe. I don't think the Sharks are going to make it because they have to win every game, I think, from here on out. And I don't think they're that good this year again. The Lions are an interesting one. I think the Lions, Bulls, and Stormers will make it. But the Stormers, after that hot start to the season, I think the wheels are coming off quite a bit. That was a very poor performance. I think I look at Sasha Feinberg Gomezulu as a player who's taking on a huge amount of pressure there. And making uncharacteristic mistakes because I think that the things around him aren't working very well. Um, Might be underrated, but I think the loss of Manny Leboeck is being felt quite a bit there for them. And I think, yeah, Kubas Reinet being out is a big part too. I could see the Stormers actually, funny enough, falling out of the top eight altogether, which is a real shock given I thought, at the start of the year we thought they were going to be the top of the URC, but I don't see that. I don't really see a way back for them to the top, and they're in fifth position now. I know they have a game in hand over Munster, but I could see them really dropping right down.
Yeah, we really focus on South Africa during these Six Nations matches because
Mm,
yeah, Leinster lost and yeah, Glasgow Warriors lost, but those aren't the teams that we're going to be seeing.
mm,
I got no issues. I think it's going to come down to Glasgow Leinster in it, but we really focus
yeah.
on South Africa because these are the eight teams playing for them. So
Mm,
you're right. I am raising some red flags on the team I picked to win the Champions Cup, the Stormers, and
yeah, yeah,
I
true.
still feel good about that pick. It's just man, they're
Mm.
they're
I think
killing me.
the problem is, Joe, is that there's big areas of weakness now in this team that weren't there in that first half of the season. I mean, the scrum dominance they had is kind of worn off. The back line looks pretty disjointed. The defense is a disaster. I mean, the tries they were leaking were so rude, like so easy. Morne Vandenberg, the Lions scrum half, just picked them apart from the boot. I mean, I think there was at least two of the tries conceded were just kicks in behind. So I think the Stormers are really up against it now, and yeah, I mean, they had a great start to the season. I think they might have, similar to England, it was kind of built on a really hot start, but kind of fell apart. Munster did the same sort of thing to the start of the season, but fell apart a little bit earlier, and now they're picking back up, in my opinion. So, yeah, yeah, and the Lions
Wow.
clinched the South African Shield.
Right. Well, it's March 4th right now, on the day we're recording. So we're about a month away from Champions Cup playoffs from starting in April. Really excited about that. Obviously, we have this strange schedule with a lot of hiatuses. The Prem's not back for another couple weeks. They've been playing the Prem Cup. And then, of course, Top 14 has been trugging along as they usually do. Philip, we'll talk more about club rugby as we move on here and the Six Nation closes out. But I'm just going to give you one plug. Our friends at Rugby Pass, they're streaming the Super Rugby in the United States here. You message us every morning with our just Super Rugby hot take. What was the best thing you saw in Super Rugby last week?
Jeez, these Brumbies look good, don't they, Joe? I mean, there seems to be. Look, we've seen it before, and there's been false dawns before, but it looks like there is a real shift for Australia gaining strength against New Zealand. and this will be, this will play out at test level, I believe, at some point. So the biggest takeaway for me is Australia looking really, really solid. I know the Tars didn't play last time out, so the Waratahs are 2-0, Brumbies are 3-0, which is massive. And the Brumbies, with that win against the Blues, the Blues are no easy pushover. That showed a lot. It was a really late win for the Brumbies. So big takeaways there. The Hurricanes lost away to the Fijian Drua, which was a real shock given how well the Hurricanes opened their account in round two in terms of annihilating Moana Pacifica. And I think I love Moana Pacifica. I think we both do. But again, it further emphasized for me why Artie Savia was our number one player in the world last year. Artie's not there, and Moana aren't there this year. So that's sort of my biggest takeaway, I guess, is that Australia have got the power. Moana have stepped back without Artie, and everybody's going to be inconsistent. I think the Brumbies are the only team I really back at the moment to be consistent. I say that, and they might lose this week. So who knows? Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, speaking of player rankings, we've got club rankings. They come out. They should be out by the time this podcast is published. And we've got our prospect rankings coming. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out on all the FloRugby social accounts on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. What am I missing out? Threads. If you're on Threads, there we go. Check out more Six Nations coverage. We have the Rugby Europe is back this week with some knockout games. Keep an eye on that.
Spain, Portugal, big one. Yeah.
Spain, Portugal, that's probably our match of the week, right?
For sure. Yeah, that's a great game.
All right, everyone. Watch rugby this week. Philip, until next time.
Thank you, Joe. Have a good one.